Hello there. Thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalists Hangout. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Today on the program, Presidency, Southern and Middle Belt leaders attack Northern Elders Forum over calls for FULANI herdsmen to quit Southern Nigeria. Reps threaten to take over Edo House of Assembly as Obaseki tells Senate committee that Oshiomhole is behind crisis. And later on the show, IGHALO'S solidarity strike secures Super Eagles' 8th AFCON bronze medal. I will be hanging out with ADEKUNLE YUSUF, Shola Ojewusi and Ima Bello. Journalist Hangout starts now. Thank you for staying with us. To be or not to be were the options thrown to FULANI herders by Northern Elders Forum leader Professor Ango Abdullahi. He asked those of them residing in the south to leave immediately, since, according to him, their security was no longer guaranteed. His position has drawn more knocks than kudos. President Muhammadu Buhari has called on Nigerians to ignore his call. He said all citizens are free to move and live within any part of the country. Afenifere, Ohaneze Ndigbo and the Pan-Niger Delta Forum see nothing but irresponsibility and divisiveness in Abdullahi's stance. For the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, it was such divisive actions that led to the civil war from 1967 to 1970. But as the wave of insecurity continues to rise to worrisome proportions, with many afraid of traveling through highways for fear of kidnapping, the North and South are victims. Do we then cut off the head that the neck may move freely? Interesting poser to begin with as I welcome my guest today. Shola Ojewusi, you're welcome. My immediate left, Adekunle Yusuf, you're welcome. And Ima Bello, welcome to Journalist Hangout.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So Shola, do we cut off the head that the neck may move freely?
You know, I have to start by saying that I'm not really disappointed by Professor Ango Abdullahi. Over the years, he's always been a disappointment in the sense of his pedigree, you know. When you're talking of somebody like that, a professor, he has been there, he's well-read, well-versed. He knows what is at stake when you're talking of national unity, when you're talking of peace in the land. Sometimes a leader has to learn when to say no and when to say yes. But sometimes if you allow emotion to override reasoning, sometimes it can be a big problem. And that's why you can see the groundswell of opposition to his approach to this problem. Professor Ango Abdullahi must know that to be a nationalist, there are certain things you cannot do. You have to be a student of history. You have to know what makes a nation. When you don't want to call a spade, and you are playing politics with a national tragedy, then it becomes a problem. As a leader of a particular section of the country that is well respected, such statements, going back into history, should not be coming at this time. This is a time when the nation is under serious pressure. And if you are doing certain things, do not become an incendiary, putting more fuel into the fire. Try and look at a way of solving the problem, not creating another problem. How do you start telling people, okay, what do you want to achieve by coming up with that? Are you saying it's now time for the nation to be divided, to break completely? Or you want to build a nation? The fact that you belong to a cultural or sectional organization, it should be for the good of the people, not for the division of the country. So that's why I said I'm really disappointed. But coming to the issues, you know, sometimes we begin to get things right in the country when we begin to call spades the real name of spades. If you see something being done by your own family member that is not good in the interest of the community, if you don't know how to be very bold and be very forthright about it, you'll be creating more problems. You know, we have reached a situation where we have to know when to call a spade a spade. All these innuendos, all these talking in mixed metaphors will not help our country. And the earlier Professor Ango Abdullahi and his ilk know that, the better. You have to understand, and I think you can see the groundswell of opposition to what he has said. People are beginning to wonder, what does he really want? Sometimes when there are issues that are very, 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 very germane to the progress of the country, you come up with things that turn things around. It's not going to help us. And as a professor, as an intellectual, he has to learn that. That's what I'm going to say at the
And the division has set in already because the Southern Middle Belt Leaders Forum said it is such divisive actions that led to the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. But then again, former Minister of Aviation, Femi Fani-Kayode, says not at all, that it's not the same, that in the 1967 to 1970 it was the Igbos that were being massacred in the north. So has it done more harm than good? Ango Abdullahi's comment.
Ango Abdullahi has never done anything good by his utterances. And just as Shola said, when I look at people like Ango Abdullahi speaking on behalf of, a group of people, decent people, you wonder what has happened to such societies. Because Ango Abdullahi is not one of these, hungry noisemakers, activists, whatever. No. He's a professor and former vice chancellor of one of the nation's, foremost universities.
Yes.
Nigeria has given him a lot. He became all he is today because of Nigeria. Of course, he can argue, he can do anything elsewhere, but the fact is, he stayed back here, and Nigeria gave him a lot. This is not his first. Check his antecedents. He believes is for the North, and only the North, that others, they don't matter. That's not the kind of, elders we want to see in our country. You see, when you look at this HERDSMEN, crisis, I would have been happy, or maybe this story would have been different today, if people like Ango Abdullahi had come out, to say the truth. But they will not. They will come and be telling you that a spade is a long spoon. You see, people like that, we pretend as if they are the lovers or fans of President Muhammadu Buhari. In this matter, they are not. They are making the job of the president more difficult, more dangerous. All these years, of course, you can blame the presidency for not doing enough, for allowing this matter to degenerate. But when this matter started, till when it moved from little crisis between farmers and herdsmen to criminality, pure criminality of kidnapping, raping, killing, torturing, and all those things. When did you see Ango Abdullahi calling on his? Because anytime he talks, when you even look at him, he will say, "My people, my that." Why didn't he talk to his people as he normally calls these, people we are talking about? That, hey, Nigeria is for all of us. Please calm down. We don't want problem. We don't want this. That we see you to be, doing things in the interest of the
generality
of Nigeria,
Nigerians.
Not a section of the country where you come from, where you belong, because it is not only the North that has been of benefit to Ango Abdullahi, Nigeria as a whole. You see, the danger of having such, people like, Ango Abdullahi is that young generations coming up today may not know the meaning of what a statesman is. They will just, believe me, and it's very dangerous that you see everybody will grow up, all the young ones, whenever they have opportunity, they want to do things that will favor themselves and where they come from, not Nigeria.
They have him as
that is not how to build a nation. Believe me, that is not. Then I'm happy that President Muhammadu Buhari, the presidency came out.
That's where I'm headed now.
Okay.
Ima, has the president done well to douse the tension? with his own reaction to the issue.
Yeah, and you know, which is not what we see every day. We're seeing a president who just, you know, immediately, you know, jump on that and say it's wrong. You know, he's trying to be a unifying factor in the middle of order, and that's what all presidents in all countries do, which is they remain patriotic. They actually guide the nation because they represent everyone. So by coming out so strongly and attacking what, you know, some other people would think, oh, okay, well, this represents your side of the country. The president has actually showcased himself as a nationalist, as somebody who is thinking for the rest of the country and not just a section of it. But I think what we should also do in expanding this discussion is to say that, look, what ABDULLAHI said is not actually in isolation of many other things that other people are saying. And it's very important that we, especially those of us who have the platform and this medium, you know, to tell the rest of the world and talk to the rest of the world about things, is to say that, look, a whole lot of people have been saying many things, you know, which are very divisive too. ABDULLAHI actually reacted, and what he says is wrong. Let me just say that here. But you see, ABDULLAHI was actually also reacting to some other talks from other parts, some loose talks that you have everywhere, sometimes from very intellectual people that you respect, who will just throw things in the air and threaten the very foundation of our, you know, of our polity. They will say things like, well, there's going to be retaliation. They will say things like, we can live on our own. They will say, and then so you have other people reacting to what's going on. Now, what the challenge for those of us, especially those of us in the media, journalists, we need to start giving this thing better perspective, one. We need to start giving them good definition. We need to know how to define the problem. And then we need to know what we're also going to tell, because there must be a third force, which we're representing, where you have various people, warlords, ethnic chauvinists, talking about how to, you know, divide a country, and what we say to them in interpreting, you know, the situations. So in the midst of all that, Ango is wrong, but it's not the only one that is wrong. Other people too are wrong in the kind of calls that they make. That's one. Two, we should be able to explain clearly and let Nigerians know what we're dealing with. But like to go straight to your question, it was a good thing that the president, and it's not just the president. In this situation, we also saw the beauty of this country that, you know, apart from him, southern leaders, middle belt leaders, all sorts of people are saying, no, look, you cannot say this, you cannot talk about that. And whether you like it or not, it's a statement for unity, it's a statement for togetherness, because in any case, how will it happen? You are asking every Fulani or every northerner that is down here to move to the north. It's not possible. I've been in Lagos now for some days, and I see a lot of northerners, you know, doing their thing, having their businesses. In fact, I stopped one and asked him whether he's willing to leave, and he said, leave to where? There are many Nigerians that don't even know any other home again, apart from where they are. If you go to Kano, you have this situation. So we've come a long way. I'm not saying that our federalism or our national unity or our cohesion or the way we are is not negotiable, or we cannot discuss further on how to enhance our democracy or enhance our polity, and even our federalism or the structure of it. Such discussions can happen, but it can only happen amicably. But for now, it's difficult to ask any Nigerian to move from where they are and go. So those who are thinking like that.
I was hoping you would share some of the other divisive comments that have elicited Professor Abdullahi's comment. But let's look at what they quoted. The spokesperson, Abdulaziz Sulaiman, said that they allege, rather, that the southern governors had on July 9, 2019, jointly agreed to stop the movement of herders and cattle to the south. Now, would you blame the southern governors for making such a move? Then he also said that some of them even decided that they could go ahead and determine the category of herders that could come to the south. Shola?
You know what? You know, when a situation is very drastic, you take drastic actions to stem such situations. I think some decisions by the southern leaders was also to help the Fulani.
But it appears as if it's causing more harm than good.
Everything that happens now, everything is being placed on the doorsteps of the Fulani herders. So you have to be sure of what is actually going on. So if there are issues that can lead to even these people being harmed, based on the fear coming from somebody like Professor Ango Abdullahi, then you have to look at the way. If it means trying to at least try to see if such movements can be curbed a bit, so that, you know, when anything happens, it's all going to be, everything will be placed on the neck of the Fulani herders. But you know what is happening now is, like he rightly said, when you have situations like this, in the interest of the nation, in the interest of what has brought us together since, what do I call it? Do I say it's 1960 or 1914?
1914.
In the interest of the fact that we cannot do without, one cannot do without the other. We have to know, some people have been suggesting that we need to come back to the negotiation table. We need to come to a situation where everybody will be allowed to voice whatever the problem is and see how we can sort this thing. If somebody is calling for a kind of national security summit, I don't think it's out of place to have to do that now, because when you begin to hear all these words, all these expressions coming from different sections of the country, it's very dangerous. God save us from getting it on the road to Kigali. But we have to learn how to stop that and stem it before it gets out of hand. So everybody, once you are a leader of a particular section of the country, you have to be responsible at this time, in the sense that it's like some people are just looking for the opportunity to ignite the fire. And whatever you say, whatever action you take, whatever move you make will either be accepted or misread from other sections. So it is time all hands are on deck to save this nation. Whether we like it or not, we are facing a clear and present danger. Go across the land, you can see what people are saying. People don't even want to know that somebody is wrong or right anymore. You're not placing blame. The Yoruba will say, rather than all of us coming together to blame the thief, we're asking the owner of the house, why did you keep your things there? People don't want to know who's right or wrong anymore. They are just interested in their own ethnic sensibilities, and it's getting dangerous. This is where, and I'm going to the presidency, mere making white paper announcements will not do. The president has to take leadership now. He has to make sure that he brings the nation together. The nation is falling apart, whether we like it or not. And when we have this kind of situation, I don't know whether the man will be able to sleep in the night. So everybody must understand that we cannot continue the way we are. There is suspicion everywhere. And when you have that kind of situation, I don't know what a leader can do other than to be patriotic, to be a national leader. That is the issue on the ground.
For whatever it is worth, I'm going to ask this question, Adekunle. Does the South pose any threat to Fulani herdsmen?
Not at all. Not at all. Don't forget, the South has been the victim, and it's not a new thing. It's beyond in the last 4 years. But the cattle, herders are not new to us. It became an issue, in the last few years. Unfortunately, I blame the presidency for not doing enough, because maybe that we will not be talking about this today. But all along, some people didn't do their work. Believe me, some people didn't do their work. You remember at a point, people were practically, begging the president to say something about it.
Okay, hold the thought there. We have Abdullahi calling in from Abuja. Good evening, Abdullahi. You're on. Go straight to the point.
I've been to you all. You are doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
One question I want to ask. Why anything happen in the north, in the south, people will quickly come out from the south calling men for the one tribe. Is no bad egg from the Yoruba, no bad egg from the Igbo, no bad egg from the other tribe. Anything happen in this country, they will first quickly rubbish this thing with the calling name Fulani headmen. Fulani headmen, suspected Fulani headmen.
Thank you very much, Abdullahi. Interesting point there.
But you needed to follow this, conversation, because we are not calling out names. Some of the most, decent, Nigerians are from the north. Some of the most, respected Nigerians, even beyond the shores of Nigeria, are from the north. Nobody's calling out any section of the country. We are talking about what, the comment from Professor Ango Abdullahi, that it is insensitive, that it is not good for us, And we are not the only one that have said that. Even the presidency has said the same thing. Let's leave that. Let me tell you, this matter is like we decided to just have this crisis. It's not an issue as far as I'm concerned. When the matter started, we would have solved it, you know, once and for all. Then, now, it has become a national crisis. I don't know how the president will be able to handle this now, because, number one, when, you know, tempers were still very high, the same federal government brought out Ruga. That Ruga, no matter how beautiful you want to make people to believe, the timing was totally wrong. You didn't even communicate enough. At the end of the day, what should have been applauded became something everybody didn't want even to touch, even with a long, you know, poke.
Okay, as you land on the point.
Okay, at the end of the day, when the federal government eventually, you know, suspended the program, what did a section of the country, I mean, a group from the north did? They said they gave the president, President Muhammadu Buhari, 30-day ultimatum to start implementing what virtually everybody
had rejected. Related, some people, I wonder if you've been following the conversation. Some people have said that they have traveled down the north, even attempted interactions with these quote-unquote Fulani, and they happen not to be Fulani of Nigerian stock, that when you actually interact with them, they speak French, and some of them don't speak Hausa. So if this is true, if there is anything to support this, how did this foreign Fulani find their way into Nigeria? And is Nigerian security operatives, are they doing their jobs well enough to identify these people whom, according to reports, are taking over the land?
You know, in various collaborative meetings, you know, you have the Minister of Interior, in the former Minister of Interior, and even the IGP, you know, meeting with top leaders, you know, the Mieti Allah people, and saying, look, maybe you'll be infiltrated. And if you are being infiltrated, help us, let's work. And we must encourage that. We must encourage some, some kind of collaborative effort between us and our people. We've lived with Fulani all our lives. I'm from the north. And there's no northerner that will say he did not live around a Fulani person. We know them. We've interacted with them. So there are fantastic people. And, you know, this question will link us back to what the last caller said. And there are all sorts of loose talk in the polity right now. And he's right. We must not, in trying to solve a problem of criminality, which we must deal with, criminality in all its facets, because crime has no tribal marks, it has no religion. There are criminal elements everywhere. There are bad people everywhere. There are good and bad people everywhere. I told someone yesterday that one of my very good friends, a Fulani man, in fact, I call him a Fulani herdsman. I actually left my family, and I left my family in his care. I left my family in Abuja, and I said, look, take care of my family. And I've been calling him, he's been doing very well. So there are fantastic people everywhere in the world. We must not demonize a tribe in dealing with a problem. If that tribe has been infiltrated by people like you are saying, like also some people in very top places have suggested that maybe there's some form of infiltration, then we probably need to have collaborative efforts with our own people, the people that we grew up with, the Fulanis that we know, because there's really nothing. We've lived with them all our lives, and find out how we're going to deal with that problem. But there's a bigger problem, and that is why you and I, those of us that are, teaching the world, because that's what we're, teachers of the world, journalists. Yeah. We need to find very good ways of defining issue. When there's criminality somewhere, do we just say it's a Fulani attack? We need to find ways of redefining.
Use our platforms well.
Yes,
absolutely.
To teach the world.
All right, still to come. Reps threaten to take over Edo House of Assembly as Obaseki tells Senate Committee on Shomole is behind crisis. Stay with us. Very glad to have you back. It's Journalist Hangout, and we have looked extensively at Professor Abdullahi's call for Fulani in the south to return home in order to ensure their safety. Now we're moving forward. Last week we drew attention to the fact that there is fire on the mountain in Edo State. Then no one seemed to be scampering for safety. But now somebody is casting the die. The House of Representatives is threatening to wield its big stick on the Edo State House of Assembly over the improper inauguration of members on the 17th of June. On Wednesday, the committee probing the dispute submitted its report at plenary. It was resolved that Governor Godwin Obaseki issues a fresh proclamation within 7 days to inaugurate the 7th Edo State House of Assembly. The House agreed that failure to do this could result in a takeover. But Obaseki told the Senate committee investigating the same crisis that he won't be cowed. According to him, he had already performed his constitutional duty. The governor blamed APC National Chairman Adams Oshiomhole for the current situation in the state. Let's take this report from Abuja.
The House do receive the report of the ad hoc committee.
1 week after it was set up to dig into the crisis rocking the Edo State House of Assembly, the ad hoc committee turned in its report this Wednesday. At the Committee of the Whole, the chairman gives a breakdown of the lawmakers' findings, which he said informed their recommendations. He said though a proclamation was issued by the state governor, time and venue of inauguration were not included, a contravention of constitutional provision.
The proclamation came 10 days after he took office. And when the proclamation was issued at the end of the day, the proclamation did not contain the time that the inauguration was supposed to take place. This created a confusion.
It therefore recommends that the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, should, in the interest of peaceful coexistence, issue a fresh proclamation within 1 week, in line with Section 105, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution is amended. But some members think otherwise, as the presiding officer tried to counter their arguments.
Can the House of Reps declare that action of proclamation null and void? Do we have the power? Do we have the jurisdiction?
We have two warring factions, so that we're not seen as a house to be supporting one against the other. The power to proclaim for proclamation rests squarely on the governor. So why would we do otherwise?
We do not have a specific time as to our own convening by the time the proclamation was given. What time could you have been here for your inauguration? You know that in every proclamation, I want you to go through the various assemblies. There must be date, there must be time.
Interesting, the House is intervening in the matter. But one lawmaker asked a very critical question. Does the House have the powers to take over the Edo House of Assembly?
You know, I don't know what the fuss is all about. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear about how you convene such assemblies. All these things, let me just tell you, all what we are seeing is just the repercussion of a personality clash between the governor and a supposed godfather. And unfortunately, governance in Edo State is in limbo because of the fight of two juggernauts. Because when the Constitution gives you a clear mandate about what to do concerning situations like this, there is no need for you to beat about the bush. But because it's a recurring decimal in Nigeria when assemblies, you know, what is happening in Edo, I will have to personally, let me use the word personally, address Comrade Oshiomhole. He is a man of history. He has history beckoning and the future beckoning. There has been, beyond Edo State, even what we know what happened during all those APC primaries over time, anything that has to do with elections, inauguration, and all those things. This is a comrade we all respect. He has paid his dues, he has worked, he has strived, he has struggled to entrench democracy in Nigeria. It's going to be very sad if democracy is falling on its head based on its inaction or action. What is happening in Edo State, there are a lot of people who are not happy, who are even not, you know, they are all stakeholders. They are not directly involved, but they are not happy that a state that should be moving forward, having had an 8th year of a man of that pedigree, is now getting into this kind of problem. If you look at the history of the governance, I mean, Oshiomhole-led governance, there's always been a kind of recurring issue with assemblies. You see that we are, convening members you're not forming quorum, there is always problem. You know, Ojewusi has to know that as a man of history, the onus is on him to be able to set things right in Edo State. You have a godson who may not be going your way, but you have to think of certain things. The interest of the people is very, very important. You don't need to beat about the bush. There are things that the Constitution has spelled out. Obey the Constitution. You know, I don't blame the National Assembly. They cannot watch and allow things to fester and not really take a stand. But after all is said and done, both the National Assembly, Edo State Assembly, the governor, Ojewusi, must know that the Constitution of the Federal Republic should take precedent in this. And that's what I'm going to say about that for now.
Now, the governor is speaking. He spoke during the visit by the Senate committee, and he said, when people arbitrarily make up their minds because of some predetermined outcomes and make statements and conduct themselves, this is what it leads to. It appears as if he's speaking in parables. Adekunle, would you like to break it down for us?
Okay, first of all, if you remember Edo State, it's a home of godfathers. Yes, if you kind of politics in Edo.
Seen in Nigeria, political scene is not one of godfathers and godsons.
No, Edo is a home of godfathers. But Ojewusi, you know, went there and sacked all the political landlords. That was why he was able to govern the state, and he achieved a lot. Nobody. You said?
So he wants to create his own godfather.
So now, it will be so sad for one man who was always saying that godfatherism is not good for Edo State to now be the one to enthrone the same thing. Let me tell you, there's nothing the House of Representatives can do in this matter because they will be seen to be biased. And look at some of the utterances, their contributions at the floor of the House. You will see that because Ojewusi is not just an APC member, he's the national chairman of the ruling party. That is one. Then the Senate. There is also nothing the Senate can do in this matter. But if you look at our Constitution, the Constitution gives the power to the National Assembly to take over the House of Assembly of any state if it has become, ungovernable, lawless and everything. I'm not too sure the one in Edo has reached that, but I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not too sure it has reached that dimension. You see, but the matter in Edo State is very simple. It's not a matter that we should be dragging. It's between Ojewusi and Obaseki. In the interest of that state, they can just let. In the absence of that, the only person that can help in this matter is President Muhammadu Buhari.
I guess that brings me to the next question, and it goes to you, Emma. The Edo Assembly has rejected the House of Reps position, and it has asked the APC to respect a subsisting court order restraining it from interfering in the activities of the House of Assembly. From historical precedent, will the judicial intervention help in this matter?
I was listening to a lawyer yesterday. I think was he on this? No, on Channels, and he was very flustered. He said, "Look, why should people do terrible things and then go to court?" In fact, he came out. I was shocked. The lawyer would say that he came out so strongly and said that the courts should begin to reject some things. Because you cannot, now, whether you like it or not, whatever Obaseki did, I've asked these questions, Governor Obaseki or the House of Assembly, because let's say pretend that there's some separation of powers in these matters and that the legislative arm in Edo State is on its own, separate from the executive, which is not even there. And I think for us, since we're here and we're the one who talk to people, we teach people everything, we need to actually critique and go back and question the issue of separation of powers between the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. If we're going to do anything, if we're going to gain anything from what is going on in Edo State, we need to use it as a veritable peg to be able to have this serious conversation about separations of power. Before the program started, we started discussing some things here. And we're saying that, look, part of the problem is that you have a situation where the issue of rubber stamping, the issue of where governors want a House of Assembly that will just do their biddings, the kind of House of Assembly that they will work with. There are people who have said that it's a good thing, that there should be some kind of relationship between, smooth relationship between the House of Assembly or the legislature and the executive. And that when they have a rancorous kind of relationship, a fighting, a bellicose kind of relationship, it does not help in, in delivering the dividends of democracy. There's that talk too. But then there are other people who say that, no, you don't need that kind of relationship. You want a House of Assembly or a legislator that can actually put the executive on his toes and task it. You don't have that situation. How we're going to arrive there is something that we all need to be talking about every time. We need a legislative arm that is separate, clearly distinct from the dictates of governors. What's going on is, you asked about presidents. We've had this kind of situation, even under Ojewusi itself, the former governor. You have a situation where, speakers were changed and all that. Several times. So you have that situation, but then you should also not run away. While we're talking about trying to say, look, Ojewusi is wrong, we shouldn't run away from godsons who come into, into the political space and offer themselves willingly to any godfather to be brought in. And no matter how you try to say it, and then when they come in, they try to cut off, whoever the godfather is. So it's a catch-22 kind of thing. You have a situation where people actually lend themselves to this. If you look at the manner in which many of these House Assembly members, get their orders, their jobs, their mandate, sometimes not even from the people. They get handpicked. And you have a situation now where we say 15 members are loyal to one person, 9 members are loyal to another person. That shouldn't be the case. They should all be loyal to the people.
Said something earlier about the House's position on this matter being biased and how we should exercise caution and all of that. Let's look at some of the House's resolution and determine whether indeed the House has been biased or not. That the governor of Edo State, in the interest of peaceful coexistence, should issue a fresh proclamation within 1 week that all members of the Edo House of Assembly, both those who have been inaugurated and those who have not been inaugurated, should dissolve their factions. That the IG and the Director General, Department of State Services should shut down the Edo Assembly and provide adequate security to allay further fears of intimidation and threat, as alleged by some members-elect. Shola, how biased is this?
Well, if it's to solve the situation, but if you go ahead and tell the IG and the state security to shut down, are we going to use illegality to solve the problem? Because to those who are there in Edo, they believe they've done the right thing. And they are saying this thing has to be interpreted by the court. If you now decide by fiat and say, shut it down, are you not also going against what the law states? That's why sometimes when it gets
lives
to
are threatened,
if it gets to this level, that's when all stakeholders must have to come together and find the solution, because the back and forth may not solve the situation. If they decide to maybe do it by force, what they are trying to stop, what if it happens? Because if it escalates, that means your thesis is now leading to antithesis. So you have to look at how to solve that problem. How? See how the warring parties can really be spoken to. Let reason prevail. We have identified the two major forces in this crisis. Ojewusi is one, whether we like it or not. So the governor is another.
The solution would be
unofficial. They have to find a way, because they are already quoting specific laws to justify whatever has been done in Edo.
All right, Adekunle, let's have your last word.
Okay, let me just correct
briefly,
something. I didn't say they are biased. I said they will be seen to be biased. But let's look at it. The House or the Senate, they are not courts of law. So there are certain things they cannot do. Fine, the law never said or says that in the life of an assembly, that a lawmaker will be inaugurated twice. So if that is going to happen, what you will need to do is to go to court and allow the court to make a pronouncement to say maybe the first proclamation was wrong, issue fresh one. 2, when you look at it, all these people are APC. No opposition, infiltration, nothing like that. Why are they embarrassing themselves? Is it all about governance or something else?
All right, Emmanuel, your last word on this, Emmanuel.
APC, why is APC embarrassing itself?
That's what the PDP in Edo State, said yesterday, and said that, look, you cannot, if you cannot actually pull this off, how do you hope to run the state? Election is just next year. So it's up to the APC. If they want to lose, Edo State again, the ball is in their court. But if they want to come together, I was at the Unduka Obiagbena's birthday, and Adams Oshomole walked in, and Unduka in his charismatic style still just said, look, we have the national chairman of the APC is here, but he has a crisis back home, but we are going to solve it. Like a family, say, no, be so, he asked him like that. And I saw Adams Oshomole, because at the end of the day, maybe they will think about the survival of the party, just maybe. And when they think about that, I know that the PDP is knocking by the side. That could push them to come together and say, look, it's all for one and one for all, and let's solve our problem.
Yeah, well,
maybe that will solve the problem.
I hope the people will be more critical to their resolve and their decision to solve the issue at hand. You're watching Journalists Hangout. Time for another break, and we'll be back. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're glad to have you. It's still Journalists Hangout on TVC. Atol, naim bad pass, is a popular pidgin English parlance in Nigeria. It indicates the need for one not to come out of engagements empty-handed. Following a disappointing 1-2 semi-final defeat to Algeria in the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, the Super Eagles have given soccer followers in the country something to cheer about. In the third place playoff on Wednesday, Nigeria clinched the bronze medal by defeating the Tunisia team 1-0. They have striker IGHALO'S to thank for it after he pounced on a loose ball to score the lone goal. The Super Eagles did not just get a third place finish, they kept their record for the bronze medal titles intact, making it 8 in 8. Add that to 3 champions title and 4 silver medals, then the country can be dubbed the most successful in the tournament in terms of medals haul. Should we see this as some sort of celebration, consolation? Gentlemen.
Well, based on what we saw yesterday.
First of all, let's welcome Mian. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Mian Akiri.
Good
Mian
to be
is
here.
not happy, and I'm sure it's about the Eagles' performance.
Definitely.
Okay, so Mian, you start.
Well, you made mention of the fact that Atol, right?
Nine
bad
bad
pass.
pass.
Well, if you actually investigated in the past, or probably asked those who made mention of the Atol consolation, they didn't say that smiling. You know, it was just, you know, from a very sad consolation. Okay, Atol. More take them like that. But then, in all honesty, I think it would be celebrating mediocrity if over 180 million Nigerians start celebrating the bronze medal achievement of the Super Eagles. And there are so many reasons, you know, for this. The last time Nigeria won the Nations Cup, a Nigerian led the Eagles to the Nations Cup. He didn't have 3 years on the job to win the Nations Cup for the Super Eagles. As of today, Nigeria is regarded as the capital of poverty, so to say, inverted commas. But you see, you bring in a foreign expatriate to come and do a job in Nigeria. In their country, it is working. Ever asked yourself, why is it not working in Nigeria when you bring a foreign expatriate to get a job done? Did you bring the foreign expatriate to come to Nigeria to win the bronze medal? Did you bring a foreign manager to Nigeria to come and tell us that a bronze medal is what we should celebrate as a golden bronze? For the first time in the history of Nigerian football, an individual is earning $16,000.
I understand your passion, but let's also look at another successful time in the
$16 million.
In Nigeria's footballing history was managed by a foreign coach, Clemens Westerhoff. So why don't you look at it from another perspective? The argument is that Clemens Westerhoff had some time to work before he could assemble a tight team.
I made mention of $16,000. It's $47,000 $16 million rather. Now let me go back to the issue of Clemens Westerhoff. Westerhoff worked hand in hand at some point in time with Bonfrejo. I talk to Bonfrejo every day. I still spoke with Bonfrejo today. These foreigners were in Nigeria. They were working in Nigeria, not on leave in another country. Then you come to Nigeria just to call 11 players and bring them together. Please, the Nigerian Football Federation should tell Nigerians the truth. When Keshi was in charge, it took no fewer than 11 players who never had Nations Cup experience. 8 of them were at least from the Nigeria Professional Football League. At a point in time when Keshi and the Eagles were playing at the Nations Cup, return tickets were already bought by the same NFF for these players because they didn't believe these players were going to win. Now we have a foreigner, we'll be paying him $47,000 monthly, almost 16 million naira. and you are telling us to indeed celebrate a bronze medal. The same coach, for the first time, Nigeria lost to Nigeria against Madagascar. And at the press conference, he told the world and said, losing to Madagascar is not a shame. If Raw has no shame, I've got shame.
All right.
No, I think
calm down. Shola, do you share Mien's sentiment?
I understand Mayor's passion about this. You know, definitely, knowing Nigeria, our pedigree in the Nations Cup, we should not be thinking of bronze as our gold by what we've achieved. But you know what? Right from the beginning of this competition, if we're going to be realistic, from the statement, even of the coach, I didn't expect much, in the sense that he was like a man who preconditioned his mind to not winning the trophy. He was content, he was okay with even getting to the semi-final. And he believed by achieving that, he has achieved his mandate. You know, that is what they say, mind over matter. If you set your mind on something, you know, definitely, psychologically, the way you walk towards it will determine the outcome. I think we have to ask the coach, is he a kind of coach that is resigned to underachievement, or a coach that wants to take us all the way? Then when we look at that, that's where everybody would like to go on the back to the drawing board. Do we really have a coach that can take us to the promised land? There is no sentiment. We have gotten to a stage. Yes, there is something good about what happened yesterday that I want to mention. We saw what some fresh legs did yesterday. We need a coach who can build on those guys, those new guys, and look forward to the future. A coach who is ready to really win things, not limit himself psychologically, physically to underachievement. So if that's what Mayen is saying, then I'm going to agree with him. But you know what? It's all about football. It's football. Okay. It's a game. But we have to remember that the national interest, the prestige of the nation is also at stake. So we always have to look for the best. So anyone who's going to lead the Eagles in the future should be one who's ready to go all the way.
Committed to excellence. He said something critical, that we saw what some fresh legs did yesterday. Some have always said that, oh, Roy is tactless. His team doesn't reflect any form of wisdom in, you know, assembling the formation, really, of players. Does that counter that view about Roy?
Well, I don't think so, because when you look at his performances so far, at least if you were in the World Cup last year, I think, was it last year?
2018.
Yes, last year, we won the World Cup last year. He didn't look like a coach. You know, when you now brought in his utterances, then you wouldn't even have any doubt again that who says this is a coach. Because when it comes to, you know, sporting, you know, achievements, it's about psychology. You have to prepare mentally. We may not be privy to, you know, tactical issues, you know, at the training, you know.
In the same.
But when you come out and you say something, maybe pre-match, you know, talks and all that, what you say, and then what the kind of attitude your boys display, I don't think the man is good for the national team.
We have a caller on the line from Oshogbo. Good evening. Hello, are you there? Are you still with us?
I'm still there.
Okay, you're on. Your contribution, briefly, please.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on.
Okay. Please, I'm listening. Good evening. I'm listening to your discussion. You have 3 medals, gold, silver, and bronze. How many countries are contesting for this medal? See, they have done well. Eagles, they have done well. The coach has done well.
All right.
For getting bronze, it's something.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, please land on your point.
Yeah,
actually.
so at least let's with our own clap for him, let's agree they brought in something. How many teams went to
24?
You know, at the end of the day, there are only 3 prizes. We took the smallest to Nigeria, but to me, that's not a reflection of who we are in terms of African football. and having to pay much. I don't think we pay the president of Nigeria that much.
Okay. So
let me just let me buttress what you said. Yes.
General Raw took the Eagles and they're coming out with bronze.
Yes.
And last week the commentary was, if that match was lost, he would be sacked. The match was won. Should he be retained?
He shouldn't be retained. Let me buttress what they said and what the caller said, or from the points of the caller. Before Keshi, Chukwu and Co went to the Nations Cup, they were given a mandate, they were given a set target. Get to the final, win the Nations Cup. This man has brought a bronze medal. It's not the first time Nigeria has been a bronze medal. There are Nigerians who are capable of getting a bronze medal also for us without paying them $47,000 US. For how many Nigerians earn this? No, if you are getting a foreign expatriate, it's not just in sports. It shows the fact that we feel the Nigerian man is not good enough. He's not capable. We can't get the job done. If you are bringing a foreign expatriate beyond sports or anywhere, do the job you asked to do. Get the job done. So why leave those who are capable behind and bring someone who will not get the job done and give him, non-Nigerian coach has earned 10 million naira. The highest was 7. Keshi was on 5. Wulisa was on 7. Nobody.
So who do you think can take me?
Now the Nigerian Football Federation should just throw the position open. Let interested candidates and let the best be chosen. Let everyone show their interest.
Shola, your last word on this as we coast home.
Yeah, like I will
Should he be retained?
I would choose the word the best. If the best happens to be a Nigerian, you know, sometimes there are also undercurrents of choosing a foreign coach, knowing our situation, our sentimentalities and all those things. Sometimes the foreign coach may be necessary because of those undercurrents. If that's the best that we can get, but let it be somebody who is determined to win, not somebody who is going to be an underachiever, who will be content with underachievement. You know, sometimes, look at, there was a statement made sometimes ago by the coach of Liverpool. Sorry, I'm a Liverpool fan, I will use that example.
You won't work
alone. You are not working alone.
The coach, you know, it's about the kind of push you give your players.
That's it.
If you are giving them the impression that they're going to end at the semi-final level, yes, don't expect them to win the competition. But we need a coach who is going to be a manager, a technician, who is also going to be like a father figure, who is a psychologist, who can drive this player, who can create in them the force, the will to win. Not just anybody who is going to be content.
Adekule, your last word.
My last word, we are...
Should he be retained?
We are paying much and we are getting less. So I want us to have a coach with a winning mentality, so that even if we pay so much, we will know that we get value for our money. In raw, we are not.
Thank you, gentlemen. Shola, Ojewusi, Adekunle, Yusuf, Miyanakiri, and not forgetting Imabelo, who came to the studio all the way from Abuja, and he debuted on Journalists Hangout today. Of course, we expect to see more of him. That's our offering to you today. Join us tomorrow for another edition of the program. You can also watch Journalists Hangout on YouTube at youtube.com/TBC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalists Hangout at tbcnews.tv. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.